Good evening, everyone, and welcome to This Week from Rockdale. And I am your host, as usual, Larry Cox. So let me go ahead and say hello to some folks who have joined the show tonight. Lisa Lancaster, welcome to the show. Megan Walker, welcome to the show. Mary Boysworth, Marie Withers, Tina Hobbs, William Campbell, Angela Asperero, Judy Bond, Ethel Bland, Cheryl Moten, Joey Williams. Thanks everyone for joining the show tonight. Hey, let's go ahead and do something tonight, guys. Let's share and like this show so we can build this audience. This is going to be an interesting show tonight. I'm probably going to upset some people tonight with this show, uh, specifically maybe some members of the Board of Education. Talk about this week's past meeting. I'm going to talk about what the purpose of the board is, what responsibilities they have, what responsibilities the superintendent has. And then I'm also going to talk about what I think some of the board members and what people believe the board can and can't do when they actually can do more than what they do. So that's what I'd like to talk about. Cheryl Corliss Turner, welcome to the show. Corliss Turner, welcome to the show. Actually, Corliss, I read some of the things you posted about responsibilities. I'd already pulled those things up and had all that information, but thank you for posting those responsibilities out there so people can understand. I'm going to talk a little bit about those responsibilities tonight. I think go in further detail about how people are misled about how the Board of Education can lead the educational system, and I'm gonna talk about that. So, um, teamwork, exactly, Corliss, teamwork. So let me start out tonight, but I want to talk about something else. I want to talk about, but first, share like the show. Let's build this audience. Let's let people know what's going on in Rockdale County, because without knowledge and with the people don't know what's actually going on, then they get gaslighted by the different organization. They get gaslighted by the BOC, the BOE, and the city, and they get to spread their misinformation instead of actually having actual information. So that's what we're going to provide you on this show is actual information so that you can decide for yourselves what you think is going on and if you believe that you're being represented properly or not. So that's what I'd like to do. So share like the show, guys. Let's do this so people can know what's going on. We want this community to know what's going on so they can make informed decisions, especially when it comes to the ballot box next May. We want our citizens to know who they should vote for and why they should vote for these candidates. So let's get started. So we have got a group of individuals who were nominated to be on the Public Facilities Authority. I'm going to read those list of individuals and who specifically nominated. Um, Good evening, Alex McDonald. Xander Mack. Welcome to This Week from Rockdale. So we've got the 5 individuals that have been nominated to form the Public Facilities Authority, and they will be officially voted in this coming Tuesday at the Board of Commission meeting. But right now, this is who we have. Alicia Sanders was nominated by the chairman, Oz Nesbitt. Donald Murphy was nominated by Post 1 and Post 2 commissioners, Doreen Williams and Sherry Washington. Um, Darlene Hoskins and William Todd were nominated by Judge Mumford. And Tenny Davis was nominated by the district attorney. So we have these 5 individuals who have been nominated to serve on the Public Facilities Authority. And I'm just going to, and these 5 folks can get upset with me all they want, but these 5 folks were just nominated to be rubber stamps. They were nominated because the individuals who nominated them knew they were going to go along with the shenanigans and the nonsense and approve the $110 million that these characters need to build their administrative complex. I'm going to even quit going along with the pretense of calling it what they want you to call it. This is an administrative complex. Jill Odom, great to have you here tonight. Thanks for joining. Polka Dot, great to have you. George Killichick, great to have you. But yeah, I'm not even going to go along with it and call it this other pretend thing that they've been calling it. This is an administrative complex. So no matter what else they wanted to call it or tried to call it. Danielle Munoz, welcome to This Week from Rockdale. Thanks for joining. So, guys, they can call it whatever they want, but this is an administrative project, an administrative complex. It was never this courthouse thing that they said, or the emotional rallying cry that they wanted you to believe it was. This was nothing more than all along an attempt to get money to build an administrative complex for this board of commission and this county government. That's all this was. They can say whatever they want, but they tricked the legislature into passing the PFA. Now they had their fake board that they came and did their little meeting and everything, and or whatever, and now they've got their PFA members that they've nominated that are going to just rubber stamp what this board of commission wants. That's what's going to happen. So if you guys don't like it, then you've got some choices to make. You can not elect Sherry Washington and not elect Oz Nesbitt, and hopefully the people that we replace them with will put an end to this and stop this nonsense. That's what we've got to hope will happen if we don't elect. And I think we need to ask hard questions. We need to ask hard questions to people who are running against these two individuals. Do you support this project? And if you're elected, will you do away with it? I'm going to put this up here because Alex is exactly right. Courthouse was simply their way of gaslighting the community. It was never about a courthouse. 1000%. It was never about a courthouse. It has always been about an overpriced, exaggerated administrative complex. That's what it's always been about. And the community did vote it down, and this commission found a way to bypass you, the communities, and you, the voters, and get their way any way they wanted. And now they've got this rubber stamping board, which is going to be approved on Tuesday. This Tuesday at the Board of Commission meeting, they're going to approve this board, and then off to the races we go. Then it will be spending millions and millions of dollars because they don't have enough money approved to do what they're going to want to do. They're going to, mark my words, if they're successful in breaking ground and starting this project, they will get halfway through the project, not have enough money, and they're going to have to go back to the legislature and have them amend this legislation to increase their amount that they can borrow. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. So I've talked about this, and thank you for indulging me. And I will talk about this subject even more as we move forward. But what I want to talk about tonight, the main part of the show, is the Rockdale County Board of Education and the Rockdale County Superintendent. And I want to talk about this past Thursday's Board of Education meeting. They started this meeting. They were going to give us an update on some milestones, some test scores, and how the county is faring compared to other metro school districts and systems and such. So, they started off, talking about how we improved from before, from the scores before. But guys, these scores that were before were all failing. They were in the, 40 some percents. We were in the 40 percentiles. And they were talking about improving like in a couple of things, like by 1%. We went down in a lot of things. So I was told by those that know that are in the system that we actually flatlined. We're actually even from before. There were no true increases, that they could cherry pick some numbers. And it looks like they got some improvement from like 46% to 47% in a couple things and such. But at the end of the day, under 50% performance against other districts. So, last time I heard like a 70 was passing, and that's an F. A D, and then 69 is an F. So we're still talking about, we're failing. And they're trying to promote and say that, well, we're failing, but not failing as bad as we were. We're failing, but only at, we're 1% higher failing. And we're in the 40%. We're failing miserably. And, and I understand it. Some of the thing is, well, we don't want to get the kids down and make them feel bad about what's going on and such, but what I found interesting at this meeting was that you had them present this open presentation. But apparently, the school board members, but now the school board members got like this private briefing with these other numbers, and they weren't going to bring these other numbers forward because they didn't look as good as the cherry pick numbers they were going to present at this meeting. So you had several of the school board members, I think Justin Kinney and Heather Duncan and Janie Jones, to mention a few. They asked some questions about the progress, how the kids were doing, the school scores, and the superintendent got a little bit testy. Uh, he got a little bit fired up about it, and he actually, as he said, I'm gonna I got a little note here. Um, he called it a game of gotcha. He said we don't want to play a game of gotcha, and I didn't really see any member playing a game of gotcha. I saw members asking questions because they were extremely concerned about the lack of progress that our students are making, and they want to know why the students aren't making progress and why they're continuing to stay in these low percentiles. I mean, I saw concern from board members, and and I was shocked when the superintendent sort of came out with his rhetoric. Um, that there's a time for this. If you want this detailed information, you can get this detailed information on your own. Um, you can request it, but it's not the responsibility of the school board or the school system to provide that information. I don't think that's correct. I think that's inaccurate. So what I wanted to do tonight was I wanted to go over what are some of the responsibilities of the school superintendent. And mixed in those responsibilities, you're going to see that it's very intertwined with what the school board allows him to do, permits him to do, and requires him to do. So, so first of all, number one, the school superintendent is to make recommendations for the board to approve. He is to make recommendations for the board to approve. He is to serve as the CEO to be responsible for implement board policies. Be responsible for school funds and distribute funds only on an order of the school board, only on the school board's recommendations and approval. Make employment recommendations for all school personnel for the board to have final approval. So we see he's to recommend things to the school board for approval. The school board has final decision on distribution of funds. They have to approve how the superintendent distributes funds. He has to carry out all roles and regulations and instructions of the board. Watching this meeting last night, you wouldn't have got the impression that this individual actually works for that school board. But these requirements, these regulations, I'm reading what's required of him. Make recommendations to the board concerning policies or establishment of new policies. Keep the board fully informed concerning conditions and needs in the district, including presenting at board meetings. Now, this is where I think it comes to last Thursday's meeting. Keep the board fully and timely informed concerning conditions and needs in the district, including presenting at board meetings. We clearly have a need to know what's going on with these test scores. We clearly have a need to know that our kids are not performing, and in the requirements that are required of the superintendent, keep the board fully and timely informed concerning conditions and needs in the district, including presenting at board meetings. It is very apparent that the superintendent was not in compliance of this condition last Thursday. And actually, one can say was quite defiant of this condition. Okay, work with the board members and committees in the solution of problems and the development of lines of action. That also, I think, comes into play from last week's, this past week's meeting is, if we would have been open and informed the school board, then maybe they can come together and find some solutions and at what's going on. So, and this is, to develop a tentative budget for the board's approval and make recommendations concerning budgetary practices and procedures. Now, let me read this carefully. Develop a tentative budget annually for the board's approval and make recommendations concerning budgetary practices and procedures. At the end of the day, it is the board, the elected officials' responsibilities to implement policies, procedures, and to actually direct the spending of all funds that the school board spends. So this is where I'm challenging the Rockdale County School Board. You need to be more interactive. You need to give more direction to this superintendent because it is clear from what responsibilities he has and what is dictated in policy. He works for the school board, but we have a superintendent who doesn't see it that way. He sees it in reverse, that the school board answers to him. Guys, a school board member, I think part of their rules or what their suggestions is that they work as a unit and no one member can speak for the board. And I 100% agree with that because it takes a majority of that board to pass policy and procedure. But if I'm elected to the school board, I will have town halls where I will come to you, the citizens and taxpayers, and ask what you want me to do and to present to the school board. Because whether they believe it or not, that's totally allowed. As an elected member of the school board, I can come to you, the constituent, and ask what you would like to see us do. Now, I can't come and say I represent the school board as a whole, but I can say I represent you as a member of the board, and I will take your desires and wishes back and convey them to the whole board and the superintendent, because that would be my job as an elected official. Now they get everything twisted about here and say, well, we got to act as a unit and you can't be an individual. Well, that's not true. They can't pass any rule or regulation taking away my First Amendment rights. And that's what they're saying that they can do. As an elected official, I have the right to discuss with you, my constituents, what you want done. Now, I can't tell you that's the policy that I'm going to implement. I can't tell you that that's the direction that I'm representing the board as a whole, but I can tell you I will be representing you as post one board member. And as the post one board member, I will be taking back your recommendations to the board and say, this is what our constituents want. This is what our taxpayers want. This is what the citizens would like to see. And as an individual member, I can make recommendations to the board. And whether they agree or not, they don't agree. But I have the right to disagree with the board. And whether they believe it or not, as a citizen, I actually have a right to disagree with decisions the board has made openly and publicly. And the board wants, as someone gets elected to that board, to think you lose these individual rights. You do not lose these individual rights. It is. You do not lose these individual rights. But they want The board and the superintendent, some members of the board want it to appear that you lose these rights. If I'm elected, I'll represent you, the citizens and constituents of Rockdale County. I do not represent the school superintendent. I still represent or would represent the citizens of Rockdale County. And the only way to represent you is to meet with you, talk with you, and find out what you want and have open dialogue and conversations. That's what it takes, and that's what you have to do. You have to have an open dialogue and open conversations. And we can't live by these pretend rules that this Board of Education is doing right now. And this pretend dictatorship of the school superintendent. The school superintendent does not have all the authority that he thinks he does. At the end of the day, if this school board would exercise the rights given to them to demand that the school superintendent enact policies that they present, that he enact the budget that they would like to see. Now, it says that the school board cannot interfere with the day-to-day operations, but the school board is the entity that approves the day-to-day operations. So that if the board wants to change or redirect how the day-to-day operations go, the school board has that authority. And then the superintendent must carry out the policies and procedures that are implemented by the school board. The school board acts like their hands are cuffed, that, they have to follow the direction and the leadership of the superintendent. No, the superintendent makes suggestions to the school board, and the school board then has to evaluate those suggestions and determine if they are right for this community and this school district. But that's not what happens in school districts today, and especially it's not what's happening in Rockdale County. What we need a school board that is not afraid to stand up on its own, to be creative and out of the box, implement policies and procedures, and demand that the superintendent follow those directions. So that's what we have right now. We need strong leadership, and we need a shift in this school board. And Lisa, you're correct. I'm going to put Lisa's comment up there. I don't disagree with this, and I think we do have 3 members who are trying their best to do that. But right now we don't have a 4-3 majority that will carry out that. So what we need is we need one more person to join these 3. So we do have a 4-3 advantage on the board that will represent you, the citizens of Rockdale County, that will implement policies and demand that the superintendent follow them, and will just rubber stamp any foolish idea that the superintendent comes up with. One of the things that I believe strongly, the superintendent enacted a RIF, or reduction in force, this past year. And he claims that, that they did not reduce classroom positions. Well, that's true, but technically it's true. But I've got it from good sources from inside the system that we have less teachers and less parapros in the classroom this year than we did last year, and it is a direct impact of the reduction in force. So what I believe we should do, when I talk about my first actions are, of course, a vote of no confidence and Terry Oaks, giving Terry Oaks the boot, 100%, and I agree with that. But getting serious, one of the things I would like to do is look at the budget. Look at where we have where we're top heavy in the central office and the administration, reduce administrative and central office positions, take take that and shift that to the classroom. Let's put more boots on the ground in the classroom. So because we have kids who are deficient and they're behind in reading and arithmetic, let's put additional people in the classroom so we can do one-on-one with these kids, and we can get them to the standard they need to be and improve those scores and improve the ability of these kids to be able to function in society at a higher level. That's what we need, and we do that by reducing staff that do not have interaction with kids. Let's reduce the administrative staff, reduce the central office staff, and let's increase the staffing in the classroom. That's seriously, that's my prime initiative of getting elected to the board of education is to shift um, how we do that, and that's what we need to do. I believe that by shifting uh, the employees to the classroom and out of administrative positions, we give our kids an advantage. We give them the opportunity to actually go to improve in scores and to move ahead. That's what we need to do, and that's what I would fight for as a member of the board. But without and I can't say. I mean, will I support keeping Terry Oates on as school superintendent? The answer is no. I will at every meeting ask to go to executive session to discuss his termination, and that's just fact. So I'm hoping if I get elected that he'll find another job and go away before January of that year before, so we don't have to do that January of 25. But if he doesn't, like I said, I have no problem asking for us to go to executive session to be up to eliminate Terry Oates as chairman. I mean superintendent, because that's our big issue. We've got a superintendent whose objective is not classroom and it's not students. It's these fake numbers and and his ego and not wanting to be called out, not wanting to answer questions. They're guys, we've got to do something about that. We do a nationwide search. We find the person that's right for Rockdale County. We find that person that wants to have a working relationship with the board, not a dictatorial relationship with the board. Because that's what the person that comes in and is going to be the school superintendent after Terry Oates has got to realize that they're going to have to work with the school board, not dictate to the school board, but work with the school board. Because as an elected official, if I'm elected, I intend to have these conversations with the community. What do you want and how do you want me to do it? And what would you like to see our school system look like? And that's what we need to do. We need to take what the community wants, find a way to materialize that. That's what we do. We find a way to make that happen. Angela, an excellent point. I want to put this up here. Don't forget that discipline must be enforced. This is a huge issue regarding student achievement. And I agree, there must be consequences to actions, Angela. I agree 100%. And that's what we need to do. Ben, let's see. Also, a few weeks ago, I went to a meeting and they talked about graduation rates. And, from what I found out was the general graduation rate just overall is 81.24%. It's like 81% graduation rate. But they've got this program, CTAE, which is it's a program that I think they work, out of the Career Academy. It's where it's a career focused graduation, and that graduation rate is over 99%, where we get children that are focused and career oriented. And Jill Odom, if you're on here, you probably can speak professionally to this because I know you were, over the Career Academy at one time. And to me, it seems like if we have a program that we get these kids directed toward something and that we have this high graduation rate, then that's a program that seems to work. And it's something we might want to do across the board is find the direction these kids are going to go, focus on that direction, and get these kids directed in a direction that keeps them focused. Uh, that rate measures the pathway completers. Yes, and that's what is the pathway. So, guys, I think that, and then what was it I heard last night? When I watched the show, the last weeks they said they have a hard time keeping students coming to school on in the springtime, and even teachers coming to school because they're getting burned out and stuff. I remember going to school, and I don't remember that being an issue. Um, I don't know, man. They just make crap up. I'm just telling you. I think they just make stuff up, or they find reasons. It's crazy. But guys, yeah, Daniel, those numbers are very fuzzy, and that's why when we were looking at them, they are fuzzy, and that's why you go from 81 to 99, and then when they were talking about their 99 at the meeting the other day, that was even they even questioned that rate. It is hazy and it is fuzzy. So I think when we look at it in general, I think that 81% is a better rate to go at here in Rockdale because we see how many kids didn't graduate from that were total enrollment. So I think it is a little bit, but I do know when we look at the overall rate, it's not where it needs to be as far as the graduation. So I just think that we can do better by kids, and we can do better by kids. Just focus on basic education, writing and arithmetic. If they know how to just do simple math, they can read and they can understand what they read. It just puts them miles ahead. It really does. Just being able to fill out a basic application. It is. We need to focus on a good, strong, strict, basic education. I think if we do that and we don't try to get too fancy and too out of control, I think we do right by the kids. But when we start having these meetings and they want to cherry pick numbers, and like Daniel said, the numbers are already difficult enough to define because they're hazy areas, right? So, and then when we want to start manipulating them to make them look good or better when they're already in the cellar, it's crazy. So yes, Charlotte, does spring teacher burnout carry over to the student or vice versa? And that's exactly what we heard the other day was they're all just burned out and nobody wants to come to school. Lisa, I don't think truancy is an issue any longer. If you come, you come. You don't, you don't. And you, it, I mean, yeah, it's just ridiculous. So and I think it's not clear cut. It's not simple, right? But I think we can start out by offering a strong basic education, have enough people in the classroom to be able to provide assistance to kids who are falling behind. That's where we start. And if that means uh, reducing administrative staff, central office staff, in order to put those dollars to the classroom, then that's what we do. That's what the board directs the superintendent to do. That's the budget that the board passed, needs to pass, that the superintendent has to implement, because those are the rules that the superintendent has to follow. The superintendent has to implement and and go along with the budget, policies, and procedures that the school board passes. So if we have a bad budget and we have a bad policy and we have bad procedures, it's because the school board passed it. Now, they may have been convinced by the superintendent to do it, but at the end of the day, voters, citizens, taxpayers of Rockdale County, you've got to make decisions. Do you want the same nonsense to continue? If you do, then you keep the same people uh, on the Board of Education. You do. You keep the same people on the board if you want the same incompetence to continue. If you want the superintendent to just run roughshod and do what he wants, then keep that same 4-3 majority. If you want something different to happen, then you change one or two of those folks. You elect somebody who is not afraid to stand up against the superintendent and call out the superintendent. You elect somebody who's not afraid to have public meetings, public hearings, and hear what the public wants the school district, the school board to do. Elect Larry Cox, and you'll see a difference in Rockdale County. You'll see a difference in the school board. Guys, I've spoke long enough tonight. I have talked long and hard, and I don't think I went overboard tonight to where I should really have anybody upset. They might not like it, but I don't really think anybody should be overly upset with me. I mean, what do you guys think? I was sort of calm tonight and tame, not over the top, you know. I don't think people should be too mad at me for the things I've said, and I might not be happy, but prove me wrong. If I said something that's inaccurate, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Well, guys, thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for allowing me to rant and rave for the last 40 minutes. So if you want to hear more about these things and other things, uh, then join me next Sunday on This Week from Rockdale, and we're going to talk about the Board of Education. We're going to talk about the Board of Commission, and we're going to talk about the City of Conyers and how they don't represent your needs and desires. We're going to talk about how you deserve better and how you can make a difference at the ballot box. Those are the things we're going to talk about. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you again next Sunday, 8 p.m. on This Week from Rockdale.